Our Bible text is Matthew 17, verse 5. While he was still speaking, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them, and suddenly a voice came out of the cloud, saying, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear him." So here we have the account of the transfiguration of Jesus. Of course, it's recounted in all three of the synoptic gospels. That's the gospel of Mark, Matthew, and Luke. Interestingly, the Gospel of John gives no direct account of it, but maybe it's referred to in John 1, verse 14, where the author says there, "And we beheld his glory." Maybe that is a reference to the transfiguration of Jesus. There's also a reference to the transfiguration of Jesus in 2 Peter. Go read chapter 1, the verses 16 to 18. So it's well attested in the New Testament. And it's connected with what has happened before, because before that, Jesus was in the area of Caesarea Philippi. That is where he explained to his disciples that he's going to Jerusalem, he's going to die. And where he also asked them, "Who do the people say I am?" And where he was openly confessed by Peter, "You are the Messiah." And in some Gospels, it also goes on to say, "the Son of God." Now it says, after 6 days, the transfiguration happened. If we go there to chapter 17, verse 1. Now, after 6 days, Jesus took Peter, James, and John, his brother, led them up on a high mountain by themselves. So, the 6 days, there's also another Moses motif here, because if you go read Exodus 24, when Moses went up Mount Sinai, he waited 6 days to hear the voice of God. Also, he took up 3 people with him up the mountain. And here, Jesus takes 3 people with him, his inner circle. Like it says there, Peter, James, and John, his brother. And they were like privileged because they also had others. It was just them and Jesus. For example, the raising of Jairus' daughter. They were the only present ones in the room there when Jesus performed that miracle. And also other incidents in the Gospels. So Jesus takes up these 3 men, his inner circle of disciples. He takes them up on the mountain. And the mountain, biblically, is a place of divine revelation. And already Jesus gave the Sermon on the Mount, so it's also important for Matthew. Mountains are places of divine revelation. The question is also whether this is Mount Tabor, which was located in southern Galilee, or maybe Mount Hermon, which was closer to Caesarea Philippi. But whatever mountain it was, Jesus goes up. And now our pericope also continues, our Bible text. And he was transfigured before them. His face shone like the sun, and his clothes became as white as the light. Moses also shone, but he shone because it was God's glory that shone on him and he reflected it. Yeah, the shining of Jesus is different because it comes from within. He's the Son of God. It's a different shining that is good, but he's white, bright, and he's transfigured. And now, of course, 2 also important figures of the Old Testament appears. It says in the next verse, "And behold, Moses and Elijah appeared to them, talking with him." Now, Moses was symbolized the law. Elijah symbolized the prophets. So here, Jesus is the fulfillment of the law. He's the fulfillment of the prophets. Everything basically that the Old Testament or the scriptures stood for comes together here in the person of Jesus, this glorified Jesus. The living witness Jesus' transfiguration. Souls, departed souls. Yeah, Moses and Elijah appears. Also witnessing the transfiguration of Jesus, both the living and the dead. Somehow they have both this connection with Jesus. Of course, the Gospel of Luke is also explicit because in Luke it says there that Moses and Elijah spoke with Jesus about the exodus that he would accomplish in Jerusalem. In other words, his death and also his resurrection or his mission in Jerusalem. So yeah, Moses appears, Elijah appears. Both the living and the dead, the departed, see the transfiguration of Jesus. And now it also goes on to say that Simon, he was a bit bewildered. He didn't know what he was doing. And he asked, shall I build 3 tents or 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, one for Elijah? But he wasn't really knowing what was going on. Probably also a bit overwhelmed by this, seeing this glorification of Jesus being transformed into this bright shining figure. And now we come to our Bible text, because it says, while he was still speaking, in other words, while Peter was still speaking, asking about building those 3 shelters, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them. And suddenly a voice came out of the cloud, saying, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear him." So now this is the second time that a divine voice is speaking to Jesus and identifying who he is. And there are several elements that come together here, who Jesus is. Firstly, Jesus, of course, is the Son of God. He's also the Messiah or Christ. That means the anointed one. He is also like the prophet, like Moses. All things come together in this text. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear him. Of course, Jesus being identified as the Son by a divine voice, that already happened at the beginning of the gospel, when Jesus was baptized. If we go to chapter 3, verse 17, after Jesus' baptism, of course, the Spirit of God descended on him like a dove. And suddenly a voice came from heaven saying, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." Then there's also Peter's confession of Jesus. We go to chapter 16, verse 16. Simon Peter answered and said, this is in response to the question of Jesus to his disciples. Who did the disciples say he is? And then Simon Peter answered and said, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." And here again we have this divine voice identifying who Jesus is. So he's the Son of God, he's the Messiah. In other words, the anointed one, the Christ. But another thing also is here, if we look at the end of our Bible text, it says, "Hear him." That connects Jesus with a prophet like Moses. If we go to Deuteronomy 18, specifically the verses 15 to 18, it says there, "The Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet like me." Yeah, Moses is speaking. So Moses is saying, another prophet like me, God will raise up from among your fellow Israelites. And you must listen to that prophet. So connect that now with our current Bible text. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear him. So again, there's this connection between Jesus and Moses, the prophet, because they awaited the coming of the prophet also. We find the same thing in the Gospel of John, for example. John was baptizing people, and they sent people out to question him, "Are you Elijah?" And he said, "No." Then they also specifically asked him, "Are you the prophet?" Of course, and he answered, "No." So there was this prophet like Moses that was expected. Jesus was also identified in the Gospel of John as the prophet that was expected. If we go to chapter 6, verse 14, this is now after Jesus performed that feeding miracle. It says there, "Then those men, when they had seen the sign that Jesus did, said, 'This is truly the prophet who is to come into the world.'" A similar thing also in chapter 7, verse 40. This is now when Jesus was teaching at the Feast of Tabernacles in Jerusalem. The people were saying, "Truly, this is the prophet." So there was this expectation in first century Judaism of this prophet figure that will come. And here specifically, it's identified with Jesus. Jesus is this prophet like Moses. Of course, this is also a theme that's very well developed in the Gospel of Matthew. Jesus, the new Moses, the new lawgiver, the lawgiver of the new covenant. Very strongly developed in Matthew. And our current Bible text also relates to that. Yeah, Jesus, disciples are giving a little foretaste of who Jesus really is. They see him in his glory as the Son of God. That glory will be revealed after the resurrection. But yeah, they have a foretaste of who Jesus truly is. Jesus, the Son of God, the Messiah or the Christ, and he's a prophet like Moses. Interestingly, Peter also tells the people there in the temple of Jerusalem, that's after that man was healed that was there outside of the temple. Go look at Acts 3, the verses 22 to 23. Peter testifies also to the people there in the temple that Jesus is this prophet that was promised in the book of Deuteronomy. At the end, Jesus also tells his disciples, don't tell anybody until the Son of Man is raised from the dead. So it also anticipates the resurrection, because then the glory of Jesus will be there also for everyone to see. But yeah, it's just a little foretaste of that glory, who reveals who Jesus is. That he's the Son of God. He's the Messiah, the Anointed One, the Christ, in other words. Also, that he's this prophet like Moses. He's a fulfillment of the law. He's a fulfillment of the prophets. All of Israel history culminates here in the person of Jesus. He represents Israel, but he's also this individual figure who brings God's plan of salvation to a new level, of course, where it opens up to everybody. But yeah, there's a little foretaste of the true glory and identity of Jesus.